Ladies and gentlemen, family and friends, scholars and dignitaries, welcome to another episode. Welcome to my world. So, the bride was absolutely stunning as she walked down the aisle of the church. As the groom watched her walk toward him, he thought to himself that he is the luckiest man in the world, that such a beautiful and wonderful girl would ever say yes to marry him. Everyone was in awe. This was a very nice couple that were very good to each other and for each other. And when it came time for the vows, she read a poem she had written about how deep their friendship and love had become. He read a paragraph that perfectly conveyed his feelings and gratitude to her. And then the priest asked him the question, "Do you promise to love, honor, and obey your wife now and unto death?" And the groom smiled and said, "I do." The priest turned to the bride and asked, "Do you promise to love, honor, and obey your husband now and unto death?" And she answered, "I do." But then the priest turned back to the groom and asked, "Do you promise to do 80% of the chores and household work?" And the groom looked surprised and said, "What?" The priest repeated the question, "Do you, as husband, promise to do 80% of the cleaning, the cooking, the shopping, the dishwashing, the child rearing, the vacuuming, the laundry, the dusting, and the serving? Do you promise to do 80% of all family responsibilities, chores, and obligations? Do you promise to give 80% of the work and only expect 20% from your wife?" The groom was a little taken aback and he hesitated, a little shocked, but then he said, "I do." But then it became a little more clear. The priest repeated the same question to the bride. "Do you, as wife, promise to do 80% of the cleaning, the cooking, the shopping, the dishwashing, the child rearing, the vacuuming, the laundry, the dusting, and the serving? Do you promise to do 80% of all family responsibilities, chores, and obligations?" The bride was also a little taken aback, but then she said, "I do." The priest smiled in approval and then gave a little sermon before he proclaimed them husband and wife. He told a story about a couple he knew that had a hard struggle in life. They were poor and without a lot of family resources. They needed each other to work 2 or 3 jobs just to have enough money for food and shelter. But he explained that this family was always in want and yet never wanted. Of all families, including those with a lot of money, this family had the most gratitude and the most happiness. The reason? The priest said that it was because each of them was willing to give more of themselves and expect less of the other. And they each did this in full gratitude for the gift of love that they had been given and for the love of their family. And they did it without any resentment. It was a small price to pay. Both the husband and the wife each expected that as a part of life, to make the family work, the majority of the responsibility, at least 80%, would fall upon them and not their spouse. This is the way their family would succeed. The priest explained, in today's society, everyone says our family is 50-50, but the point is that a 50-50 relationship for the family work is unrealistic. And if you strive for 50% and do 55%, well, you become resentful. After all, your spouse is not keeping up with his or her 50%. That formula alone causes more tensions and arguments than almost anything else. But, the priest continued, if you have very high expectations for yourself to do the work and low expectations for your spouse, and if you do so gratefully for the blessings you do have, you are always living in an atmosphere of satisfaction and are grateful for it. The priest continued, is it fair to do 80% of the work and only expect your spouse to do 20%? Well, it's one of those paradoxes that in families where a husband or wife demands more of themselves than their spouse, they are happier and have higher levels of marriage fulfillment and family satisfaction. It also fits into an understanding that often it is not the work, but the attitude that gives us life satisfaction, and that people who do the most get the most. Yes, he said, to love, honor, and obey are admirable virtues and are needed for every successful relationship. But as much as anything, offer in your heart to do 80% of the work, and you will never be disappointed. And you know, The rule of 80-20 works not just in marriage, but in everything you do. As an employee, strive to do more than your share of the work. As a boss, strive to work harder and better than other supervisors. If you work on the farm, in the factory, at the office, or in the home, strive to reach the 80% level and be very grateful for it, and it will improve your life in ways you haven't even imagined. Hey, be safe, be well, and God bless.